You're listening to a TGM production. Hello and welcome back to yes. I don't know why you're welcoming back because I don't know where you've been, but welcome to another episode is the better word for that. See, I'm not a professional. Another episode of Joking Apart, the comedy podcast that tries to be better than Comedian the Comedian with Stuart Goldsmith, while secretly, but more openly, having a passion to interview Stuart Goldsmith anyway. So being a rival against him is quite pointless because these ain't get closer to your enemies, but he's not an enemy. He's a wish list is what he is. Because of that CBBC program he did years ago, the mission something or other. But that is another confusion conversation for another day. My guest today is coming all the way from the other side of the world, not as far as New Zealand, but just next door because the other side of the universe, if you Google it, is New Zealand, so it's not that. But next door, Australia, and she is a comedian because why not? Because comedy is fun. It's a one. What a weird word for me to say. It's the one and only Prue Blaine.
Hiya, hey, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So we shall start at the very beginning because, as we all know, Julie Andrews once said that, and it's not she's not wrong yet. How did you get into the world I like to call ha 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 comedy?
How did I get into comedy? Do you know what? It was completely an accident for me, Tom. I moved from Brisbane in Queensland, Australia to Melbourne. I thought I'd do a couple of improv classes because I thought it would help me meet friends and get laid. Broad City was very popular at the time, so I thought perhaps I could meet the Alana to my Abby. But unfortunately, it helped me with neither. But I got more and more sucked into comedy through those classes, and then eventually thought, I don't want to make it up. I want to do stand up on my own. So it just kind of helped me slowly build the confidence by whittling down from big improv classes to doing shows with smaller and smaller improv groups until it was just me performing really heavily, quite written stand up.
And you mentioned Broad City, and I've seen Broad City. It was very good, but my problem is it didn't look like a very broad city. To me, it looked like just one street. It didn't look very broad. Just like they live on one
What? New
street.
York was the character. They
Yeah,
were on subways all the time.
yeah, yeah. To be a broad city, I would have expected an aerial shot at least once, just to prove the point that it's broad.
Do you
Um,
know what? They were probably pre-drone. If they
yeah.
redid it now, I'm sure they would get that aerial in.
They'll do that because that's what American comedy loves doing. They love aerial shots.
They
Um,
love an aerial shot.
yeah. Or the other thing Americans love is stairs that lead to nothing, and then you have to wait a second, and then you get to the upstairs because clearly they've just walked up and hit a wall. Um, that'd be very hard to pretend you're at the top of the stairs when you might accidentally hit your head
I
onto
don't know. I'm
someone.
living in the UK at the moment, and I think there's quite a few stairs that lead to nothing across all your old buildings.
Yeah, well, go to any manor house, you'll see stairs that lead nowhere. But as we swiftly move away from that, when you joined the comedy circuit, when you were at the point where you're going to all the different clubs, pubs, other clubs, nightclubs is the other one I'm thinking of, just any version of what you would class as a circuit-based area. What was the circuit like when you joined it?
Interesting. I joined the Melbourne comedy circuit in 2018,
Hmm.
I think it was, is when I started doing comedy. And it was so vibrant at the time. It was really thriving. There were gigs kind of every night of the week, often multiple gigs each night of the week. And it was like a really supportive, small group of comedians. I guess it was before the TikTok comedy boom and everyone deciding to chase their dreams. So it was really just like a ragtag group of misfits trailing around Melbourne, bragging about the free parking we could find in the evenings, sticking around for drinks. It was a really beautiful time. There were a lot of like really great gigs. Like I think one of the gigs I fought doing stand up alone for a long time. I would do a gig and then I would say, I think I'm meant to be addicted to this. I don't feel that addicted. I don't think I got anything out of it. Why am I doing it? And then someone would ask me to do another gig, because I guess 2018 was really the beginning of people looking for diversity on their lineups,
Yeah.
and people would ask me to do another gig, and I'm not very confrontational, so I just keep saying yes, and then
Yeah.
feel an onus to turn up and do it, and then I kind of got sucked in
Yeah.
that way. But the gig I loved the most and got my beginning at was called Club Voltaire.
Mm.
It was in a kind of makeshift theatre in North Melbourne
Yeah.
called Club Voltaire. And on a Friday, they did an open mic where it was everyone that signs up
Yeah.
gets on and it just runs as late as it needs to
Wow.
run. So it'd go, yeah, at kind of like 1 or 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
And the first couple of times you did it, you'd get on kind of quite late in the
Yeah.
day. And then it was a real point of pleasure, kind of like working your way up
Yeah.
through the brackets, kind of getting earlier and earlier in the third bracket, and then moving to the second bracket, and then eventually getting into that first bracket and being home before 9.
Yeah. And you mentioned there about the gig running to like 1 or 2 a.m. Is 2 a.m. the latest the gig has run for, or is 2 a.m. the cut-off point they always have?
Well, it was a theatre run by a live-in owner, so I wonder if he did kick us out at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Everything's much more civilized now, so
Yeah.
I don't think any run quite that late. Whether there was ever a kind of all-night marathon, I'm not sure. I would have given up, I think.
Yeah.
It
Because I
gets
think
to kind of like 1, 2 a.m. I start just thinking about how good my pillows and my bed would be.
yeah. Well, I don't know how much you know of British comedy, but there was a comedian called Ken Dodd, and his shtick, like I don't know if he did it at the beginning of his career or if it was just towards the end of it, but his shtick was he goes on stage, right, and then the gig might start about I don't know 7 or 8, and he'll finish by 4 or 5 in the morning the next day, and he's still been on. And he was from the clips I've seen, he was quite old still at this point, and he's like, it's all new stuff at this point, and the audience get a mini break in the middle to go off and go grab a drink to come back, but there's like security. The joke is that the security guard at all the doors to not let anyone leave. But what really annoyed the audience is some people then had to pay fines because the cars had been on the car park longer than they should have. But it's like if they were there for fun and then they didn't leave.
Was
But
it just him the whole time?
yeah, 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 it
That's
was
my nightmare.
yeah. But
That's the stickiest feed I've ever heard of.
he's one of those that has like uh set up punchline, set up middle and then gag. He has this classic jokes. He was able to just stand there and just rattle off several different. It was like if Tim Vine had drank too much coffee.
That
It-
sounds exhausting. I don't think I've lasted
yeah,
even 2 hours.
it, it was probably very sweaty because he was wearing like a very what's it like feathery costumes.
Wow.
So it
I'll
just
have to
seemed
picture this guy.
yeah. He he was one of those people that people say, "Oh, what's the longest gig you've ever been to?" Because normally, like musicians go on for a very long
Yeah.
time. You think going off stage and coming back and doing a an encore, and then doing 4 other songs in an encores. That's worth your time. See, they're very late. But some people of a certain generation would say the longest gig they've ever been to is Ken Dodd because he went on and on and on and on and on. I'm assuming some people fell asleep. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, maybe some people are recording the longest nap of their lives.
Yeah. Uh,
Best sleep.
and So one of the things that you've done in your career that is really fascinating because not many people would know that there's international versions of this said thing because some people a majority of people just watch the version they've got in their country and just don't think about other versions. And what was it like appearing um as a guest on the Australian version of the brilliant and yet still confusing because you're not too sure whether or not you should be happy or sad at numbers disappearing? Deal or no deal?
Yeah, it was quite a funny opportunity. It was one of those ones that come up and you go, yeah, I guess I'll do that. I feel like my parents would watch the show, they'll be proud.
Yeah.
It's a long day of recording. It was like a full day of recording.
Wow.
We had to turn up um, with multiple outfits for them to check the outfits looked all right. You had to go through a briefing of how to correctly open the Deal or No Deal suitcase
Wow.
because it had kind of one latch that did function and one latch that didn't function. There was kind of strict monitoring to make sure you didn't peek at
Yeah.
the number you had in your suitcase
Yeah.
because there was like a bonus associated if you guessed
Yeah.
what was in your suitcase correctly. I guess this is on every version of Deal or No Deal. But yeah, it was quite a fun atmosphere. I actually had underneath, they you had to do a full questionnaire before you went on, kind of about yourself,
All
stories you
right.
might tell, that sort of thing. And I had said on mine, I think they must have asked what secret talent you have. And I had said that I can make balloon animals. So I had underneath my
Oh.
little shelf a thing to, and I actually don't know if I can make balloon animals. I just, I don't
Wow.
know. I just put it down,
Yeah.
and then they had brought me a pump and some balloons, and they said we might need you to use this. So I
Wow.
was freaking out the whole
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
that they were gonna.
There's lying on a job application, and then there's lying on a form that you might need to represent on national telly.
I just didn't want to admit that I don't have any special talents. Like I
Wow.
can't even whistle.
Well, you could have said you could just talk really fast and then just talk incredibly fast because no one
Yeah,
would
I'm pretty good.
ver
I can do a good, auctioneer
yeah.
impression or a.
And for anyone that's wondering, the international version, I don't know about every, but most versions have the suitcase. The UK version we have boxes. Um,
Oh,
so because why not? But these boxes are red boxes, right? And so
okay.
with the suitcase, do you, because with a box, it's on a table, right? Do you have
Yeah.
to hold it in your hand the entire time because of the handle, or are you allowed to put it down on the podium thing you want in
Yeah,
front
we
of
were
you?
kind of standing behind an angled bench,
Yeah,
so I think you could. Oh, I don't fully remember. It happened quite soon after a Melbourne International Comedy
yeah,
Festival, and I'd had quite a tough run, so I was
yeah,
feeling emotionally broken at the time.
yeah,
But I'm pretty sure you could just leave it down on this kind of angled counter, which kept it propped up and you saw the number.
yeah,
Because you could always tell the difference between, I don't know how it works with the boxes, but
yeah,
you could tell the difference between a closed suitcase and an open suitcase. Once it was open, it stayed
yeah,
open. So I
yeah.
don't think they needed it to be up
Yeah.
necessarily.
Because with the UK version, when they open the box, they put the box underneath the table, so that person no longer has anything in front of them.
Ah,
Which is a tad easier. There was a recent episode with Gus Khan, a comedian, and it's the most hilarious thing ever because you've got all these real people, right? And then you've got Barbara Nice in the corner, so you've got Janice Connolly. She has to keep up for however long she's filming this thing, which just to keep up as a character and try not to break because she is being represented to an audience that are watching as Barbara Nice. And and it's because Gus Cardi's trying his best to be as bubbly and funny and whilst being as serious as possible. And so it's just really hard. I just think doing those things with the comedy character would be incredibly difficult because you have to try and not break character at any point.
yeah, and there's nowhere to escape.
Yeah.
So yeah, I found it, a long day as it was. I can only imagine how long it would have felt if I was also trying to maintain a comedic character that
Yeah.
was quite different to myself.
Yeah. And do you think that Deal or No Deal is popular because of the tension in the fact that, oh, is this briefcase gonna have 1p in it, or is that briefcase, or do you think it's popular because the person that's trying to win the dosh, if you will?
I think it was popular because you can play it along at home. It's got
Yeah,
a good kind of participatory element.
mm,
When I would watch it with my family growing up, there was a lot of like you're yelling at the TV,
yeah,
like, take the money, no deal.
yeah.
And there's like the little hand signals that go along with it, like, take the money. I don't know
Oh,
if
I
this
didn't
is just
know.
in the Australian one. So like you
Well,
go, no deal, you have to do a big X,
wow.
and then this is like take the money. And there's kind of the fun with the banker can be a bit of a,
Yeah,
antagonist
yeah,
to the protagonist that's trying to get the money. But I think what's really interesting now when I watch any of these game shows is that I feel like when I was growing up, the prizes used to feel big.
yeah,
And now you're going, even if you won the big prize, you're not that much better off.
yeah, yeah. And with I think it's interesting when you think about Deal or No Deal in its entirety. I think in America, I could be wrong, but instead of having the other contestants holding the briefcase, and don't ask me why, but it must have been at the time, they had women wearing scantily clad women, shall we say.
I think
Or
we had this in Australia when it first came
yeah,
in, and I
I,
think we moved on to audience
I think
members.
when we first got Deal or No Deal, we had the contestants holding the boxes, and it was very much not as jazzy as everywhere else. It was very wooden. Now it's more jazzy and more bright, but it was a lot very. It felt like someone's living room, um, and so you had a lot more doom and gloom element. And you had Noel Edmonds, who was Mr. Cheery, but he was very good at. If you looked at him, he would match the decor. He would blend in, if you will. But that's not being mean about Noel Edmonds. That's being mean about the decor of the place. But I do think that Deal or No Deal is one of those things that works really well for celebrity editions because, especially with comedians, as yourself, you know that when they come to you, they're not going to talk to you for ages. So you can say one thing that's probably interesting, and then you can give your best gag possible. You can come up with a
Yeah.
really quick and easy. Do you think that that's what works really well for that format? Because you're not the star of the show. You can be thinking of something funny to say if he comes over and wants a quirky answer.
Yeah, I think so. But it's also it's not as stressful as a panel show because you're not really competing.
Yeah,
Everyone gets their one kind of shot
yeah,
to get something in. You know you're going to be come to at some point when they're picking the numbers for the suitcase. And so they're kind of planning it out strategically that way. Although I do think that I don't think you could just throw in your best gag if it was completely irrelevant to
yeah. It
the
has to be relevant to the topic.
to the
Yeah,
format of the show.
but that would be funny. Just a random gag out of
Just
nowhere.
launching into some of my, club material.
Yeah. And now before we move on, one of the things that hasn't reached Britain yet, because I think we've got more well, I wouldn't say dignity is not the right word, but we've got not a lot of money in the TV industry in a sense of I don't think it'd be viable to do it. But if you got an opportunity to do a celebrity edition, would you ever do a celebrity Deal or No Deal Island, which is the version where they go to a tropical island and play Deal or No Deal?
Yeah, I'd do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds even better than the version I did. I was just in a kind of warehouse in the Docklands, which
Yeah,
is quite a boring part of Melbourne. So why not get a
yeah.
little trip to a tropical island as well?
And what I've seen from the trailers, I think what would represent it the best is if Love Island was about playing Deal or No Deal rather than love. So it's people dressed like they're on a dating program in
Yeah.
a foreign tropical island, but they're all holding briefcases, going, "I hope it's not red. Hope it's not the big money."
Well, yeah, I think I would prefer that for Love Island as well. Maybe if I ever go on, I'll take
Yeah.
a briefcase so I can just hold that in front of, any bits about my body I'm insecure about.
Yeah, yeah. Someone says that. Oh,
Strategically carry it around. I was
yeah,
telling someone the other day, just on the topic of game shows on islands, I was telling someone the other day that when we do I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here in
yeah,
Australia, obviously we don't send our celebrities to Australia.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. I think it's like South Africa, isn't it?
yeah, South Africa.
Yeah, yeah. It would just be really anticlimactic.
Yeah, just down the road from home.
Yeah, but what's funny about and I will move on in a second. But what's funny about the Australian I'm a Celebrity is that every so often you either have an American that's really well known but has never even heard of the program, right? So it's odd that he's on the Australian version to begin with because he seems to have no connection to anything, or it's someone from Britain that things are so more mighty than themselves that they don't want to do the UK version. Oh yeah, I'm more famous than them lot. Such as that social media fella. I don't know what he's called, but he didn't
Oh
seem very
yeah, yeah,
well.
yeah. He was on the quite recent one.
Yeah, he didn't seem very much well known in Australia. I mean, I don't know his name, and that's
No,
not
I don't know his name either.
that's not any fault on him. That's not his fault. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that on a lesser well-known scale, that's what works for most real celebrity programs these days, because someone will know who he is. I'm just 82.
Well, in
Um,
Australia, we have no faith in our own talent,
yeah,
so we
yeah,
always need to bring in someone from somewhere else.
yeah, like
Because I think the TV industry feels like it makes things seem more legitimate.
yeah, like that bloke from the Brady Bunch. What an odd choice. Uh, Very weird. Anyway, before we get sidetracked by the fact that, I mean, I love what Robert Irwin did for the show to stop animal cruelty of endangered animals.
Mm,
That should no longer be an Australian exclusive. That should be a format rule.
yeah.
That should, because that's fair enough. You don't want to kill off an
Yeah,
animal.
you have to get with the times. You can't just.
Yeah. Basically, what we need is Robert Owen to stop being a presenter and now be one of those consultants or animal welfare consultants and show.
I'm sure he's got a price. I'm sure he'd do
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Get him on a helicopter. And he'll go, which isn't very eco-friendly for him. But get him on a helicopter and he'll go around all the different versions. Go stop eating that animal. Stop eating that animal.
Yeah.
It'll have to learn languages. But as we move swiftly on, one of the what when you're going on stage, and this might be a reference you might not understand, so I might have to work out the best way to alter it. But when you walk on stage, do you do the Billy Connolly where you walk on, you're there 20, you've been on the stage for like 10 minutes, you've said whatever you wanted to, you've not rehearsed anything, you might have a gist of what the show's about. So for him, he had his banana shoes and he knew at some point he'll play music. Or are you the ones that structure the thing? You spend all day before a gig that evening writing, 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 and you walk on, you know exactly what you're going to say, and you know how you're going to say it. You don't know if it's going to be funny or not, but you have a good gist of what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I've been gigging, I've been based in Edinburgh for the last kind of year or so, and I think that's changed the way I approach it a little bit. I historically have always gone on with a pretty good idea of what I want to say, and I feel particularly when you're doing, club spots and open mics, they're short sets. It's a lot of your night that you have to spend to get to do your 10 minutes, 5 minutes.
Yeah,
So I always think I want to make it as worthwhile to me and the audience as I can
yeah,
by doing what I've set out to do and working on that material. But now I do find I'll try and go on with no opening and try and open with something that I've noticed about the night or the room in particular.
yeah,
And then I've got some key points that I want to hit, but I try and be less rigid with how the set goes. And if things start going off rails, I try and follow it a bit more.
yeah. And when you're on stage and you sort of you might have an idea roughly, like there's a topic you might want to cover.
Yeah.
Does the idea then change midway through speaking? Are you that type of person that might think, "Oh, what I'm about to say, this topic is good, but the word I'm about to say, I might have found a better word in that moment." Are you that type of person that takes
Yeah,
that instant and says it?
absolutely. I would reckon I would have a loose idea normally going onto
Yeah,
stage, and then I'll find something funnier will come out when I'm
yeah,
on stage due to the pressure of
yeah.
trying to get a laugh out of the audience. And then I would say the best part of my writing is done once I get off stage after I've bombed and I haven't
Mm.
got the laughs that I want. And then I have that feeling, when you've been in an argument and you leave the argument, you think I should have said this.
Yeah,
This would have been the
yeah,
perfect thing. That's the
yeah,
feeling I rely on to write all of my material.
yeah.
That
And
this is the thing that would have got them.
yeah, and when you're working on your hour-long shows and you're trying to work out, do you sort of work out what the story, what the plot points are, so you know what to connect the material? Do you work on that bit first, or are you more material heavy first before you work out how am I going to connect them all? Because some people are going to expect a beginning and an end. Relevant if they're the middle, you can probably just say whatever you want at that point. But if there's something that connects the first gag and the last gag to that someone walks away going, that's a satisfying show. And they can recommend it
Yeah.
to someone else in a better formulate way.
In the hour, I would say structure has definitely been my weakness.
Yeah,
I get too enamored with material and what I find fun to do.
Yeah,
And I think I place too much weight on that and not enough weight on what story am I trying to tell and what's the structure. So I haven't done a solo show for a couple of years now, just because I feel like the economics of it haven't been great and I was focusing on some other things. But yeah, next time I write one, I would like to have focus on the story first and the key plot points,
yeah,
and then build the jokes around that.
yeah.
But I mean, you always go in with a plan, and then it's never quite how you end up
Yeah,
doing it.
because I think that when you're trying to work out what a show is, because you can have ideas for certain gags, and you can just do a new material now, or just go on stage and go, here's a couple of jokes. It's irrelevant whether or not they link. I do think that when you sort it out an hour, when you're crafting it, it's the tricky bit of working out, well, what's better, the material, or making sure that someone's watching a theatre show instead of just someone just saying a lot of random nonsense that's got no link.
Yeah, no, I do find as well, like I love stand-up comedy. I love an hour of stand-up comedy. I think is such a underrated art form. It's what I enjoy watching the most.
Mm,
But I do find, sometimes you go to a show and you go, that was so funny. I laughed the whole way
yeah,
through, but because there was no structure or no sort of journey to it, I can't recall anything that
yeah,
actually was said or happened. So I feel like the story is important because that's what people leave holding on to, and that helps you remember, different jokes because you can relate it to a story. That's what
yeah,
sticks in people's brains.
yeah. And when you did your your solo shows, did you, when you were doing the work in progresses, did you take notes on stage with you, or were you the type of person that sort of works it out on the fly and hopes you remember it after?
Notes, notes. I need backup. I need
Yeah,
reassurance. I've got like a full script. I've got note cards.
yeah,
I've got just a list of headings.
yeah,
So I want backups on backups on backups. When I'm doing a spot, I train myself really early on. Sometimes you'll see comedians and they'll have their set list written on the back of their hand.
yeah,
And so any short spots, I go on with nothing
yeah,
and nothing on the back of my hand. I go, you just have to trust in yourself.
yeah,
Maybe I'll have the set list I wanted to do written on my phone and I'll have my phone in my pocket, but I would
yeah,
never check it. I just want to know it's there. But for a whip, I would definitely have notes. I guess what I want to do for my next show, I'm doing Edinburgh Fringe this year, but just some split bills. And I want to kind of work on the shows. So I've got two 20-minute sets a day
yeah,
locked in for Edinburgh Fringe. And so I'm hoping to kind of work out four kind of good 20-minute spots that hopefully I can jam together into a show for
yeah.
the following year.
Yeah, and because what I think is interesting about work in progress, in general, is that you try to craft this idea, and Tim, because every time you watch these things, and if you're into comedy, you end up watching a lot of behind the scenes videos about how does X comedian do whatever, and Tim Vine does a really good thing where he has, as you say, note cards, and he reads out the joke, and if you don't get a laugh, you physically see him throw it out, or you see him just rip it up, and then he knows that that's a really bad joke because and I think that that helps in a way because you know
Yeah.
yourself that that really is a bad joke, and you're not relying on your memory to go, that didn't work and that thing, and you think that that's what's good about it. If you physically note it down in whatever form to say
Yeah.
that's a bad joke, that audience laughed at it, and they're the audience have been performing that for 10 years or whatever.
Yeah, I think so. I think someone else does it. It might be Chris Rock or someone. They use note cards, and when
Yeah,
they're working through material, could be Eddie. I don't know. It was someone,
yeah,
but they will someone who's got quite a distinctive comedic voice,
yeah,
and they will read out their jokes when they're first starting on them, just kind of as plainly and with no
yeah.
inflection as they can, and then they think if it can get a laugh like that, it's worth working on. But if the idea isn't strong, that I'm just not going to bother kind of jazzing it up with my performance skills, whatever they may be.
Yeah, and one of the other things as we move swiftly, one of the things we've worked on that in the UK is available to watch if you've got an Apple device, if you've got that iTunes. It's called Apple TV now, it's not the streaming service, it was iTunes. Anyway, it's available to purchase. It'd be point on that before I get too sidetracked. What was it like writing I'm gonna probably pronounce it wrong because there's definitely I'm assuming it's the the punctuation's replacing the letter. So let's see how well we do at this. But what was it like working on additional material for the program Get Crack In with an exclamation mark instead of an eye?
Get cracking. Do you know what? If I'm really honest, it was great, but what happened was I was in a sketch group at the time with one of the main writers and performers, little brother. And so she had come to our sketch show and she stole one of our jokes from that. And that's how we got the additional writing credit on Get
Wow.
Cracking. So it was kind of a roundabout way of
Yeah.
getting it. So yeah, I was just kind of working on a sketch show with the right people, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's probably the most easiest way to get paid. Actually, just not do any work, just do whatever you're normally doing, and then just
Yeah.
randomly find a check going, oh, I don't remember doing that, and then
Yeah, just
realizing,
mess around having quite a fun time with your
yeah,
mates, writing a very bad sketch show, and then having like the one decent joke get pulled out for
yeah,
nothing.
and I think that's how I think that's how we would describe comedy, just messing about and just hoping something works. Um,
Yeah.
some people say people need a proper job, but I would say faffing around is a proper job because you get paid, regardless of how much you're getting paid.
And
You
let's
still,
be honest, even when I've worked proper jobs, it's
yeah,
mostly been faffing around too.
yeah,
So
yeah. Life's
it's all part of it.
yeah, life's faffing around. Because faffing is an excellent word, and I'll say that word forevermore. Um, and because of the because comedy now, I would say is more. Well, I'm saying comedy between Britain and I'm gonna say Australia and New Zealand and maybe Canada. I'm just not too sure. I'll include Americans. I'm not saying the world, but because of it, a lot of it's more variety. So if you know a lot of British comedians by accident, without probably knowing, you know a lot of Australian comedians because a lot of them are all friends with each other because of the Melbourne International Comedy Festival and people into it, and you don't know that such a body is Australian because you thought they were British of some many reasons.
Mm.
No one's been doing the research, but because of that, it means there's a lot of people chopping and changing on different podcasts, and one of the podcasts that I think is incredible because of the fact that 1 minute you could be like 1 minute it's you can tell it's an Australian podcast, the next minute you're thinking I've forgotten what on earth I'm listening to now because there's so many variety, which is a good thing because it sort of means that you learn more about comedy. But what's it like? And this is a long-winded question, but what was it like appearing on the fantastic podcast that I'm hesitant to call a panel show, but you could probably correct me on that. I'm hesitant on that word. What was it like working on Who Knew Who Knew It with Matt? I don't know why I said Matthew. Two separate words with Matt
Yeah.
Stewart.
Yes, give him his full name, Matthew
Yeah,
Stewart.
yeah,
Yeah, it's always a pleasure working on Who Knew It with Matt Stewart. He obviously puts so much work into preparing for that podcast.
yeah,
And it does, every time I've done it, we have recorded in the hottest room at Humdinger Studios in
yeah.
Melbourne. So you're always sweating, you're like stuck to the chair. You have to text Matt all of your
Yeah,
answers. Um, and it goes for quite a while
yeah,
because there's a lot of I don't know, I could assume I don't think I've ever listened back to an episode, but
yeah,
there's a lot of when you're doing it live or recording it, Matt just kind of typing the answers or getting the score
yeah,
and going, I'll edit this silence out, don't worry.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, it goes for quite a long time, but it is always interesting. You get into it with interesting people. I even did one that was in Manchester after
yeah,
moving here, after I'd met up with Matt and we'd gone for drinks and realized that we had some crossover time available.
yeah,
So yeah, it's always fun. It's always interesting to see who, because you've got to play it, in terms of a panel show, it's really interesting
yeah,
because you want to do things that have your comedic voice
yeah,
to them when you're responding to the questions. But
mm,
then if your voice is too strong, you're not going to win any points.
yeah,
So you've really got to walk that line of what's effective and what isn't.
yeah. And I think that when you listen to it, it's one of those things where you sort of you can feel it's very fast paced because of the edit. And what I really like is there's a radio that when you're like live radio because what's good about the podcast is that because phones now have a mute button, you can't hear the keys clicking, so you don't just randomly think who's typing because you obviously it cuts out for speed.
That's so
There's a
good.
radio station here in Britain as you probably will know about now called Radio 5 Live, right?
Yeah.
And it's very much politics and sports, but they do a section where they've got two TV critics, right? And at one point in it, for no apparent reason, because it's live, unlike the podcast, you can cut this out. In live radio, they're talking and you can casually hear someone typing. Whoever's near the microphone, you can just hear them type on the keyboard. I like playing a game called Guess Who's Typing because you have no idea who's actually typing. You have to work out because sometimes you Google stuff because they've got computers in front of them, but you
Yeah.
can really hear someone heavily typing. But I think
Yeah,
that's
I
what,
love that sort of game. When I was doing these tours with the Melbourne
yeah,
International Comedy Festival, their road shows across
yeah,
Australia. We used to play a similar game, but it was just guessing the flight attendants' names.
yeah, and
Just
that,
based off of their appearance and what they
yeah,
look like.
yeah,
I will say on Who Knew It as well. It's been interesting seeing the popularity of that podcast
yeah.
here because I've had quite a few people when I'm at gigs now in the UK come up to me and go, "Oh, I recognize your laugh from Who Knew It with Matt Stewart."
I mean, you'd be freaked out by that. What?
Yeah.
I'm not Jimmy Carr.
Yeah, I
Um,
was like, I don't think I've got a super distinctive laugh, but yeah, obviously.
yeah, and I think it's because there's a lot of now there's a lot of Australian comedians that now live in either England, Wales, or Scotland. But because there's a lot of Australians that moved over here because of the fact that the fringe is a thing, and I think that a lot of people make friends and fall in love.
It's just I think like the population density in the
Yeah,
UK makes for a much better comedy scene as
yeah,
well. I always find it funny here when I'm doing an open mic and people are complaining about, there's only 30 audience members here.
yeah,
And I'm going, that's huge. That would be huge in Australia if we got
yeah,
30 people to an open mic.
yeah. But I think that it showcases that the comedy, as I've been saying for years, that it showcases that the comedy is quite similar.
Yeah.
You can tell that it's very similar in the sense of you can watch an Australian sitcom and you can tell it's not overly like when you watch an American sitcom, you're like that's American or or whatever. But with Australia, it feels a lot very British. And do you think that what works for you as a Australian when you come here and do comedy? Do you think that you didn't have to change much in your material? Obviously, some of the bits where it's like this happens to me the other week in Australia, and a lot of the odd words you have to alter, like you can no longer say Woolworths because no longer exists in Britain. But do you think that it sort of helps because it's not a big shift like in America? You have to readjust your entire personality.
Yeah, I think it's the personality thing. Like, definitely some bits don't work because the references aren't quite the
Yeah,
same. And I mean, I spent the first 6 months here just never having any idea what the comedians were talking about. They'd always be doing some gear about how they're from, Livingston or something. And obviously, I can tell that from their accent. And you're going,
yeah,
yeah, I have no idea. And I have no preconceived notions about, all these small towns in the
yeah,
UK. Um, but like I think personality wise,
yeah,
Australia and the UK share a lot of similarities of not wanting to be seen to be
yeah,
trying particularly hard. A lot of tall poppy syndrome,
mm,
a lot of kind of fear of earnestness, fear of trying, and fear of emotion. Whereas, Americans, they always want you to list all of their achievements before they go on stage, and they're big on the woos and kind
yeah,
of more self-congratulatory.
yeah,
Comedy is kind of accepted.
yeah. Yeah, it's like I woke up today. Woo!
Yeah,
Woo!
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well done, you're alive, you're
And it's quite
alive.
funny when you see them. I mean, because we didn't have a lot of crossover with American comedians in
Yeah,
Australia, but you meet a lot more here in
yeah,
Scotland, and then seeing them kind of be shocked when they don't get these big reactions
yeah.
that they're expecting.
Yeah, and I think some of the ones that have brought on to British telly, the American, they sort of like calm down, and you just forget they're American because they've lost their unnecessary need for whoops and jeers. If I'm not mistaken, there is a bloke somewhere in America, many of them, many people, that hold sign up to try and get them to whoop. So I don't think they do it by themselves all the time.
They're
Um,
trained.
Yeah, the train by the Whoop Man
Yeah,
is what I'm gonna call them. But
not a
I
bad job.
but I do think that it's one of those things where you sort of when you think of what's the problem when you think of small town and you try and work out what that is. The issue is because of the popularity of Midsummer Murders and the fact that it now seems like oh the murder happened in this whole county. The problem is that it then means that people are scared of small villages, which I think we need to beat out of everyone. Not literally beating them, obviously. We're not violent. We're not football hooligans, but we do need to sort of make it clear that not everyone's going to be
Yes,
crushed by
one
cheese.
murder in a small town doesn't make it,
Yeah.
more dangerous than a big town that has tons of murders that you're just never hearing about.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Australia also has that problem with the broken. I think it's broken wood mysteries, which is basically if Midsummer was even more hot, burning hot, not from fire but from death, in another place. But that's getting wildly sidetracked. But because when you because you're in the UK now, because you've got to sort of like find ways of adjusting. Do you think the hardest thing to do is when you're trying to say a gag that's got a heavy, where the words are different in Britain and Australia? For example, you have a vest, and if I'm not mistaken, it's a singlet in Australia. Do you think that those type of things became harder when you first started because you had to try and figure out how do you make that gag will work because you know that you've seen such a body down the street wearing the thing, but you have to try and work out what's their word for it. Do you think that was the hardest thing to adjust to?
I think it's just an iterative process. I mean, you always go through the embarrassing periods of, telling jokes about taking your pants off, not realizing that pants is underwear in the UK
Yeah,
and trousers in Australia. So, the impact of the joke maybe got ramped up by choosing the wrong word. So you can have a
yeah,
bit of that. You can also, like, I think you can often have your cake and eat it too. If one country has a funnier word to describe something,
yeah,
you can just give the audience both, like kind of, you know, um, describe say it in Australian and then translate it for the
yeah,
audience. I don't think it has been that hard. I mean, maybe I'm saying things wrong. Maybe I've got had jokes that I've given up on,
yeah,
but I haven't realized they're not working because um, of translation issues between the two. But I think, we watch so much comedy and TV and culture from the UK anyway that I feel like we have a pretty good idea coming across. So it might actually be harder if you're a UK act gigging in Australia.
yeah. Because I do think that it is I can't think of it's like a flip flop. I think it's a flip flop is a thong, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the thing I was trying to think of. I think something like that is very tricky because you might have a different idea of what
And
a
then a
thong
thong's a
is.
G-string.
Yeah, but I think that that's what's interesting because even though from a distance the cultures don't look dramatically different, you can watch let's think you can watch Colin from Accounts and then you can watch well I'm trying to think you can watch something very similar in the UK and you can tell it's not that vastly different. But when you really get into it, it is, and I think that works really well because you can pinpoint what's really different and how things are dramatically different than what anyone else would have ever thought.
I mean, I wish I could do that. That's the dream to have some of those bits where you can
Yeah,
really skewer UK culture with your outsider's perspective, but I don't know if I've stumbled upon one that's as brilliant as I would like it to be
yeah, yeah,
at this point. But yeah, that's the dream.
yeah. Because I think you can. I think what we really got. Someone's probably done this. And I've not done it, but I think some people were very upset when Woolworths got shut down here in the UK. So I think it'd be really funny for an Australian comedian just to rub it in the face the fact that you've still got Woolworths, even though it's vastly different. Yours is a supermarket, and ours, if I remember rightly, was more of a stationery type shop. It wasn't really much of a.
Oh,
What?
really? I mean, ours is quite an evil corporation that's
Yeah,
responsible for much of the cost of living crisis.
yeah,
So it would feel, patriotically wrong to celebrate any sort of Woolworths at this
yeah.
point
Well,
in time.
ours had sheep that were called Woolies. Um, I mean, it was
It
one of
seems
those.
much more adorable.
Yeah, yeah, they were puppets as well. They weren't actual sheep. Because obviously, if you had actual sheep, they wouldn't be that adorable. Unless you were dolling the sheep. Now, one of the things that you do, and we've mentioned frequently. So with the Edinburgh Fringe, you sort of do your thing, if I'm going to say that word. But who
Yeah,
knew
that's
what?
good commitment. No,
Yeah,
believe in yourself.
yeah. Commit to the bit. And you do the show, and sometimes some comedians go, "I'll take it on tour." Now, when you're doing Melbourne, the Melbourne Comedy Festival, the Melbourne International Comedy Festival, either way, probably the same thing. Same like company. It's like the Edinburgh International Festival and the Edinburgh Fringe. But when you go on tour, is that taking the same show you were doing at the festival, but you're going to like Sydney, then you're going to like uh I'm gonna attempt to say but Wagga Wagga. Which is the greatest name of any place possible. Is it the same, or do you have to sort of adjust the show to each place you're doing the road show at?
It would be pretty much the same.
Yeah,
Which I think that's one of the really interesting things about Australia compared to the UK when, I've seen comedians here talking about these extreme kind of differences between
yeah,
cities that I think are maybe a 40-minute, like Edinburgh and
yeah,
Glasgow, for example, it's 40 minutes on the train, and they've got these like extremely different vibes and likes and
yeah,
dislikes. And in Australia, I feel like most stuff translates
yeah,
pretty well across the board. We don't really have regional accents. Some people talk about like a Queensland accent or a Victorian accent, but it's
yeah,
pretty much standard.
yeah,
So we don't get as much of that. You could pretty much do it wherever. Basically, our festival circuit runs from Perth Fringe in January, which is when
yeah,
you'd be working up your show for Melbourne. Then you'd do Adelaide
yeah,
Fringe, and then Melbourne, and then if your show's going well, you'd take it to Sydney and you can take it to Brisbane. But they're quite small festivals. You wouldn't really do it. So like Melbourne's kind of the only one you'd do for a month, and the other ones, I guess, is quite similar in the UK with the smaller
yeah,
fringes dotted
yeah,
around. You'd maybe do like two or three versions of your show. But
yeah,
yeah, I don't think you'd maybe do like a little bit of local material up the
yeah.
top. But otherwise, yeah, I think everything translates.
Yeah, and are the all the because I don't think it is in the UK because I think the Edinburgh Fringe is owned by the people that work on the international festival. But is all the fringes in Australia are they all owned by the same company that does Melbourne, or is it just a coincidence that the roadshow existed because of all the festivals just wanted to have some sort of synchronicity?
They're all different, yeah. And then the roadshow is outside of the festival, so that's like a
Yeah,
different thing again. Every festival is kind of run differently. Melbourne has the Comedy Festival,
yeah,
which is run by a not-for-profit company.
mm,
But they also have the Fringe Festival, which is
yeah,
like another different festival again. No, they're all independent from each other, so you're dealing with different people across the board for all of them.
yeah. And do you think that because with the Melbourne International Comedy Festival, with it appearing on, I'm going to say ABC, but I might be wrong because I do get confused between ABC and Channel 10 because they all do great comedy. Because I don't live in Australia, I necessarily don't have to look what channel it's on. I just have to try and find millions of ways to watch it. But because it airs on TV, because they do a showcase on TV, does that sort of help to promote the show further? Because it's like you're showcasing your best bits of this show, and because you might be doing the road show, you're able to then go online and say, "Oh, this is a bit of the show. If you want to come and watch it, I'm performing it here, 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 and here."
Yeah, I think historically it has helped. I don't know how much it helps anymore, like the TV audience and the physical comedy going audience don't necessarily overlap as much as they used to. Whereas it used to be 10, 15 years ago, you would get a 5-minute spot on the gala, and that would mean your festival show would sell out completely.
Yeah,
And if it went well, then you'd be sorted. And now I don't think the effect, I think it does help,
yeah,
absolutely, but I don't think the effect is quite as strong.
yeah. And I think what's good about it is that it helps for sort of. makes it more accessible because people that can't make it but really wanted to see such a body, and if they're on the telly program or program that I don't know if it's one or a series, but you
Yeah.
can sort of then watch a bit of their stuff. And do you think that sort of helps because it also means you can give it a clip? Because a lot of people want clips these days.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you
you
get
could definitely
become
clip it up. And I think a lot of Australian comedians, I can't say I'm one of them because it just
yeah,
wasn't on in our house, but a lot of people grow up watching those
yeah,
spots, the roadshow or the galas, and that's what makes them want to get into comedy. Like they
yeah,
kind of watch those every year, and that's how they know that comedy is a world that exists if they live in, regional Australia. They can dream of the big city and doing those spots in the future.
yeah.
So I think it's nice like that.
Yeah. And as a child, as you mentioned, was there a particular comedy program you watched that made you think, I might put that in the back of my head, and I might think about doing comedy at some point in life.
Yeah, I had no idea really about comedy until kind of my mid 20s.
Mm,
So it wasn't really on the radar for me in a way it was for many people. I guess I definitely in high school I was a big fan of Scrubs
yeah,
and would definitely quote jokes from that as if
yeah,
they were my own quite a lot of the time,
yeah,
trying to get away with them.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, in terms of like a foundational special or TV show. I just don't think there were any for me. It just wasn't what I was thinking about or focused on.
yeah. Yeah, because I just think it's interesting because when you mentioned Scrubs, I do think it would be hard to try and sell off some medical jargon that was roped into a joke as your own. Because thinking, but do you
You have
really
no
know?
idea how often you can crack a joke about intubating the patient in your
Yeah,
day-to-day life.
yeah, or in Casualty, which is a medical drama, they always say that they're tachycardic, and they always say it, and it's like I'm assuming by this point I should know what it means, but it still just sounds like a horrendously hilarious word because it doesn't sound like a real word. So I do think that trying to have the it's like trying to quote it would be more hilarious because it's like
Yeah.
does that other person get that medical reference?
Yeah, just a 12-year-old
Yeah.
in, some science class really trying to pass off this advanced knowledge.
Yeah, you'll end up turning into Sheldon Cooper by accident because they'll think you're a genius, but actually you're just quoting lines from an
Actually, I've just
American
watched a
sitcom.
lot of television.
Yeah, but do you think that when you were in your 20s, was there anything that made you think about comedy, or did someone just say, right, just do you might be into comedy because if you didn't watch it as a child, there must have been something that said made you think about comedy.
Yeah, I think I never really thought of myself as funny
Yeah,
until I started working as a town planner in Brisbane, and
yeah,
I had quite a captive audience
yeah,
of quite straight, straightforward people, and I would quite enjoy making them laugh because I was just trying to avoid doing work all of the time.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and being a town planner, you could obviously draw hilarious images and just say we should build a building like that, and it's like a really inappropriate thing that you definitely wouldn't do, just to make someone laugh. Oh yeah, let's make it look like that. There'll be someone out there that accidentally makes that
Well,
building.
town planning was always quite fertile ground because you're writing a lot of reports about the
Yeah,
public realm,
yeah,
and you'd quite often get a typo that referred to the pubic realm. So that was always a classic in your
yeah.
reports.
And because you knew a lot about the building, does that sort of when you come to do comedy in a venue, does that make you understand the building a lot better, so that when you're thinking about it in a sense of if you were doing a show, you would understand where the accessibility areas was when you're promoting it. You could say to people, if you need an accessible area, you can work out roughly without. You can obviously ask a member of staff where's the nearest accessible entrance, but you would know off from your knowledge of how buildings work.
Yeah, I'd be pretty good at that sort of thing and, directions to where things are,
Yeah,
understanding, the general uh districts of a town or
yeah,
precincts and how they're made up. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of useful. I probably haven't used it to its full extent,
yeah,
my town planning powers. But I
yeah,
mean, I'd understand, whether it was gonna be a flood risk or something
Yeah,
and delay my show.
yeah, and I do think that when people say, "Oh, I had such a career before," the popular one in Britain at the moment is teachers. Every man and his dog was a teacher at one point, which
Teachers and lawyers
yeah,
all obsessed with comedy.
they are. But do you think that being a town planner, because it doesn't seem necessarily like a million gags a minute, do you think that it sort of helps to say you can write a show about that? Because in your own experience from what you've had to do, you can find the comedy what someone might say is mundane.
Yeah, I think it does help because I think a lot of people that even, don't have a town planning degree, people are interested in cities and how they're built and how they're formulated. I did a show in Melbourne, an hour about town planning, which I called Concrete Pigs, and that was all about the way we're using placemaking and public art to kind of cover up the problems
Yeah,
on our cities as if we're slapping lipstick on a concrete pig, and we're
yeah,
not actually addressing any of the things that we need to modernize about cities to make them more livable moving forward. So it was kind of an interesting show. The problem is that if you're a teacher or a lawyer, that's quite a big built-in audience
yeah.
for your show. There are a lot of teachers and there are a lot of lawyers, and they all seem quite dissatisfied with their work lives. So
Yeah,
they're all ready to go to a comedy show and laugh about it.
yeah.
Whereas town planning is quite a niche career, so it doesn't have quite the pull that a show about being a teacher would.
Yeah, but being an ex-town planner, you could necessarily appear in an episode as a cameo. Because I don't know how far the guy can go, but you could be in a cameo of Utopia.
Oh no, they've
Um,
never asked. It's
and
actually
see
quite rude.
because I do think that there's a lot of scenes where they roll out these massive pieces of paper that's got the buildings that they're gonna build. So I think you could argue with whoever works at Working Dog Productions that organises Utopia. You can argue with them and say, I want a cameo. I fit this thing perfectly.
Yes, okay. I'll have to get on. I don't know if I have a contact at Working Dog, but
Yeah,
if I did, yeah, I'll
yeah,
be telling me, get me in. I want to consult on this show.
yeah. Or you could just have a word with Celia Pecora because she's in it. Because she would definitely know who works at Working
Yeah,
Dog
she's a
because she
delight,
yeah,
Celia.
she's in it. Or Luke McGregor. I know he's not on it anymore, but you could still probably pester him about it.
Yeah, okay,
But
good. Yeah, all good points.
yeah, yeah. Um, but it because I think Utopia sort of represents the other side of Australia that most people wouldn't
I know, I was
necessarily.
quite annoyed that it existed when I was working on my show because it is, a perfect name for a
Yeah,
show about town planning.
yeah. And in I think in America they call it Dreamland, which makes no sense. Yeah, they,
Really?
they renamed it in America because there was an American program called Utopia, and there's a British program called Utopia about, I think it's about the end of the world or something. But it's more,
Mm.
it's less less comedy, more death. Um, it's basically Big Brother. Less comedy, more death.
Just like Big Brother.
Yeah, yeah, which is a good place to end it. Because Big Brother has spoken, and he says, let's draw this to its natural conclusion.
All
Um,
right.
it's dear, this is my impression of Big Brother. Dear 84 in the Big Brother house, and it's time for Tom to be evicted. Uh, that's the
It's quite
word.
funny for me because our Big Brother sounds very different to this.
Yeah. Um. Before we do move to the end, because we are on this gag now, there's I think it was Australia or it might have been Canada. There was a version where no, it was America, and this woman had been roped in and said Michael Jackson had died, and she went, can I tell the others? She went, yeah, it's all right. But it wasn't like a mysterious voice, it was the woman going, yeah, that's all right. And she let him go off and tell everyone. Or there was one woman in America that a sister had gone missing, and she got told by this normal woman, no, in fancy voice. I got to inform you, your sister's gone missing. Your family are all right. They want you to stay here. And then she walks out and says, "Oh, my sister's gone missing." Oh, sorry, sorry, sorry. And then she just sits there and goes, "But if we are watching this, I'm all right. I'm all
Oh,
right. Just go and find her, mum. She's all right." And every 3 or 4 days, she would go back into the room but it's not a. In Britain, it seemed like a very mysterious voice,
yeah.
but just in America, it never seemed that mysterious. It was just a random production member that says, "It's your turn this week." It's like a forfeit. It's like a Bush Tucker trial. They were
It's like
ripping all that
nothing.
together.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Cash.
Yes. So, as we draw this into to a close, um, so have you got any upcoming projects that you're excited for people to see, hear, smell, read, or any of the emotions slash feelings that they need to do to absorb the next project?
Well, of course, I'll be at the Edinburgh Fringe. So if you're around, you can pop into Three's Comedy Mornings or Three's Comedy Afternoons, both at City Cafe, and I'll be performing at both of those every single day. If you are more of a reader or you're not located in Edinburgh, you can follow my newsletter, The Lowest Most Awful, on Substack, which I intend to get out most weeks, and then sometimes the deadlines slip a little. But it's just a podcast of the things that are vexing me in life and some other good links and tips and a review of what I'm reading.
Yeah. And I do think the Substack is a really good place for not just comedians but for people in general. Because I use Substack as well, and I think that you look at a lot of comedians are using it, and you sort of see the benefits. Where did the process and idea of your Substack come from? Did you read other comedian Substacks and go, that actually looks really fun, or were you just writing normally on a random website that was about to be shut down?
Yeah, I've been there. I've been on Substack for quite a long time. I think I started it when I couldn't do gigs.
Yeah,
And so I wanted kind of an outlet for ideas and a deadline to write for. And that's kind of still what I use it for at this point, really to have a deadline to just get something out
yeah.
and, fight the urge for perfectionism or hiding something until the very end.
Yeah.
So I like that a Substack is just an imperfect kind of update at a point in time.
Yeah, I like the idea of you put out an article or whatever term you're using for the thing, and then you read it back to yourself because obviously you get the emails to see what everyone else is in, and you find like four different errors, and then you try and go back into it to edit it, but then by accident it looks like 18 different people looked at your thing, but it's you accidentally pressing the wrong button and it counting as a view. I just think that's the most hilarious. Absolutely more often than not, you find a missing word or something doesn't look right and it now looks like you've had 15 million, like 15,000 people watching it. Actually, it's a 15,000 time because you've pressed that button and then you've gone into the wrong page. They need to fix that. I think they do need
They
to.
need to fix, I don't know, a little bit of vanity metrics doesn't go amiss.
Yeah,
As long as you don't make the connection, then you're happy.
yeah, and you'll be boosting what
Yeah.
the youth call algorithm. Um, but I do think that Substack is one of those places where the you don't. It's unlike YouTube now that's gone to this thing where it depends on views and whatnot. Substack is still in the early stages like YouTube was, where you could do whatever you want and
Mm.
people are not gonna care. So like Grace Jarvis, who I previously interviewed, she says she's using Substack now like Twitter, and I think that that's interesting because a writing platform like that, you can just write what they call it. I think they call it notes
Yes.
or whatever they're called. And then, do you think that that's what's interesting about Substack is that there is no pressure from anyone, not even the almighty owner of the Substack?
Yeah, I think that's what I like about it. And I feel like, my readership isn't huge or anything. So you don't feel this pressure of, all the other social media platforms, they go out to
Yeah,
anyone and you get these views. And there's always this feeling of like, if you say something wrong, everyone's going to see it.
yeah,
And then Substack kind of feels like quite a quiet, personal corner of the internet. And there
yeah,
seems to be a higher barrier for opting in, which is quite nice. If people are there, they kind of want to be there.
yeah. And so, there we have it. What a good place to end. Now, for anyone that's watching this that might be knocking about Edinburgh, could you remind people what time your Edinburgh Fringe show is at? And would you be able to let people know where they can purchase tickets or do whatever they need to do to enter the venue to be able to watch your
Yes.
show?
So Three's Comedy Mornings is on at 11:15 every morning of the Edinburgh Fringe from the 6th of August,
Yeah,
and Three's Comedy Afternoons is on at 4:30 or 4:45. I'm not 100% sure. You don't need to buy tickets in advance. You just need to turn up to the City Cafe around those times, walk through the kind of retro 50s diner,
yeah,
ignoring all of the glitz and glamour, go down some stairs, and we'll let you into one of the karaoke booths where we are performing.
yeah. And that's one of the joys of Edinburgh. You could be absolutely anywhere, including Arthur's Seat. Because if you're looking at some, I think he's called Barry Ferns. He wanted to create his own comedy club on Arthur's Seat, so he just brought up a door with him. He walked all the way up, brought a door, and that's when before he showed he had a lot of like tourists going, where do I, is this Arthur's Seat? And they walk through the venue because they've not noticed the fake door. So anywhere can be a venue. And I think that's what's really good about Edinburgh because you utilise the space for the art of arts. So good luck.
Agree.
So
Yeah,
good
here,
luck with that.
here.
So good luck with your Edinburgh run. Are you running? What dates are you running to and from? I'm gonna fall off the chair, but what dates are you running from and to?
We're from the 6th of August until, let me just zoom through my calendar quickly, until the 30th.
There we go. So you've got plenty of time to see it because it is the 27th of July. So get your ears, nose, and eyes around that. So we all wish you a million times of luck with not only your future endeavours because life moves on after Edinburgh, but also the incoming Edinburgh. Not to panic here at all. That Edinburgh is very very close. We're
Well,
not.
no panic for me because it's a nice 15-20 minute spot. So you get all the fun stuff and none of the stress or the emotional 45-minute moment from my work.
Well, there we go. So there'll be more from me because there's always more from me. I am everywhere possible because that's how you get around in this world. You have to be everywhere possible, doing all things at once, apart from juggling, which you'll never see me do because I can't juggle. Only jugglers can juggle. Um,
I've
unless
always said that.
unless someone had some life as a juggler previously. So thanks for watching. There'll be more. Yep, more words. Yes, that's definitely a word. So on that note, we shall find the best way to end it next time. Bye bye.